The movie starts with a scene near California's coast. There's an old man talking about a guy named Bobby Z, who was a big-time drug dealer. Then we see a prison where Tim Kearney, a former Marine, is locked up for doing bad things. Inside the prison, Tim is often picked on by a tough guy named Maddock, who has many friends both inside and outside the prison. After getting bullied a lot, Tim gets back at Maddock by killing him using a vehicle's license plate. This was a dangerous move. After doing that, Tim meets a federal agent named Tad Gressa. Tad has a plan to help Tim get out of prison. He suggests that Tim pretends to be Bobby Z, the drug dealer, as a way to escape from prison. Gressa tells Tim that staying in prison is not safe anymore because of the dangerous criminals there. He warns Tim that Maddock's followers will eventually harm or kill him. Tim, despite saying he could handle Maddock's men, doesn't ignore Gressa's offer. Next, we see a big ship sailing on the ocean, and there's a federal agent named Moreno who is being held captive by a criminal boss named Don Hurtero. Gressa later explains that Don Hurtero agreed to let Moreno go if he could hand over Bobby Z to him. However, the real Bobby Z had died in jail, so they had to find someone who looked like Bobby Z and could take his place. Tim accepts Gressa's offer, and they make Tim look more like the original Bobby Z. Before he took any action, Tim was shown a picture of two women named Olivia and Elizabeth who were expected to be close to Bobby Z. After getting everything ready, Tim was brought to the border between the United States and Mexico for a trade. They also gave him the address and phone number of a guy named Monk, who was known as a business partner and close friend of Bobby Z. Surprisingly, Gressa's plan wasn't just to free Moreno. He wanted to kill Tim too, but Tim managed to avoid the shot. Because the shot missed and hit Don Hurtero's men instead, Gressa and his team got into a gunfight with Don Hurtero's men. Tim decided to hide in the bushes. However, one of Don Hurtero's henchmen discovered where he was hiding and aimed a gun at Tim, taking him away from there. The next day, Tim found himself in a fancy house and was treated as an honored guest. A maid came into his room, gave him a new suit, and told him there was a party by the pool. After getting cleaned up and changing his clothes, Tim went to the pool area. There he saw Elizabeth sitting with a boy named Kit. Shortly after, a waiter came up to him and told him that Brian wanted to talk to him. Brian is a trusted person who works for Don Hurtero and manages the crime lord's plantation business. Brian explained that Don Hurtero couldn't meet Tim because he had some other business to attend to. In the evening, Elizabeth visited Tim in his room. Tim asked her about the boy who was with her earlier in the day. She revealed that Kit was Bobby Z's son, but only she and Olivia knew this secret. After spending a close and private night together, Elizabeth told Tim about Don Hurtero's plan to kill Bobby Z after the exchange. However, she didn't say why the crime lord wanted to do that. The next day, Tim planned to escape before Don Hurtero showed up and tried to kill him. When Tim was about to run away, Kit spotted him and begged him to go along. Tim had learned from Elizabeth that Kit was mistreated by Brian and Don Hurtero, so he agreed to take Kit with him. They managed to escape on a horse. But Brian quickly realized Tim had escaped and ordered his men to chase after him. While on the run, Tim left Kit hidden in the bushes and told the boy to stay there while he fought Brian's henchmen. Being a trained ex-Marine, Tim was able to defeat Brian's men and take one of their motorcycles. He then returned to pick up Kit and they continued running. Unfortunately, the motorcycle ran out of gas during their journey, so Tim and Kit had to continue on foot. At the same time, Brian, who found out that Elizabeth had told Bobby Z about Don Hurtero's plan, decided to punish her by whipping her. After that, Brian sent his partner, Johnson, to hunt down Tim. Johnson dropped a grenade from an airplane to try to get Tim. Tim and Kit quickly found shelter on big rocks while Johnson's men chased them on horses. Tim managed to defeat all of Johnson's men, but just as he and Kit were about to escape, Johnson shot Tim in the leg. Somewhere else, Don Hurtero was angry with Brian and had his henchmen torture him because Brian had let Bobby Z get away. Brian tried to explain that Elizabeth had revealed their plan to Bobby Z, but he didn't mention why she did it. Elizabeth, who was a friend of Olivia, Don Hortero's favorite daughter, who had died by suicide, didn't explain why she had told Bobby Z either. Instead, she showed the wound from Brian's whipping. Don Hortero then ordered Johnson to capture Bobby Z alive. That night, Don Hortero didn't stop tormenting Brian. He wanted to punish Brian for whipping Elizabeth. The next day, Grussa found Brian's body in a trash dump near the border. After that, Grussa called Boom Boom, one of Mad Dog's buddies, and told him that Tim had escaped to Mexico. Grussa asked Boom Boom to gather all of Mad Dog's gang members and find Tim to get revenge for Mad Dog, who Tim had killed earlier. On the other hand, Tim and Kit had already found a place to stay at an inn to hide for a while. Tim bought an old car from the inn's owner and then took Kit to get some food and supplies. After buying what they needed, Tim, still pretending to be Bobby Z, called Monk and asked him to get cash and passports ready. Monk told Bobby to come to his house the next day. As Tim and Kit left in their car, Johnson, who had been tracking their movements, finally arrived at the inn and asked the inn's owner about them. After getting information from her, Johnson entered the room where Tim and Kit were staying through the window. However, he didn't realize that Tim had set up a trap in the room. On the other hand, it seemed that Boom Boom had also come to the inn to catch Tim. Before long, Tim and Kit returned to the inn after their shopping trip, but Tim quickly realized that someone was hiding in their room. Tim quickly stopped Kit just as the boy was about to open a door rigged with a bomb. He saved Kit, but Johnson ended up getting killed in the explosion. Even though they survived the blast, Tim and Kit weren't out of danger yet. Boom Boom shot at them not far from there. Tim then surprised Boom Boom, knocked him down, and took his motorcycle. Meanwhile, at Monk's house, Elizabeth was already there. Monk told Elizabeth that he received a call from Bobby Z and planned to throw a welcoming party for him. The next day, Tim went to Monk's house and met Elizabeth. She revealed that she had known he wasn't really Bobby's all along. On the other hand, Grussa and Boom Boom were seen watching Tim from outside the house. Tim then confessed his true identity to Elizabeth. Just as he was about to meet Monk, Elizabeth stopped him and told him that Monk already knew he wasn't Bobby Z. She had asked Monk to help him get out of this situation. Monk was waiting at the port with the cash and passports Tim needed to escape. When they were about to pick up Kit to leave together, it turned out that Don Hortero was already there and had taken Kit hostage. Don Hortero then explained why he was so determined to kill Bobby Z. It turned out that some time ago, Bobby and Monk had deceived him, causing him a big loss. But it didn't end there. Bobby had also hurt Olivia so badly that she decided to end her own life because she had been rejected by Bobby Z. Don Hortero threatened to harm Kit and Elizabeth, but Tim warned him that he would harm them all if Don Hortero dared to hurt Kit. Surprisingly, Kit knew self-defense moves that Tim had taught him. The boy distracted Don Hortero and his men, allowing Tim and Elizabeth to break free and defeat them. Meanwhile, Grussa went to the real Bobby Z's home, only to find out that Bobby Z was still alive. It turned out that the real Grussa and Bobby Z had planned to fake Bobby Z's death and put Tim in danger by pretending he was Bobby Z. They knew Don Hortero wouldn't stop until he believed Bobby Z was dead. However, their plan failed because Tim was still alive in the end, even though their plan was to kill Tim so that Don Hortero would see with his own eyes that Bobby Z was dead. On the other hand, Tim finally reached the port with Kit and Elizabeth. After getting the money and the necessary passport, Tim asked Monk to leave. Thinking it was all over, Tim threw the gun into the sea. However, not long after, Boom Boom and his motorcycle gang showed up at the harbor with the intention to kill Tim. He quickly ran until he found himself on a bridge, surrounded by Boom Boom and the gang members who were Mad Dog's men. Soon after, Grussa arrived with the actual Bobby Z. Tim had an idea. He twisted the truth and claimed that he was the real Bobby Z, and the one with Grussa was actually Tim Kearney. A heated argument between Tim and the original Bobby Z unfolded with Mad Dog's men holding guns. Then Kit arrived and called Tim by his father's name, which convinced Boom Boom and the others that Tim was the real Bobby Z. Boom Boom and the motorcycle gang then opened fire on the real Grussa and Bobby Z, killing them both. Meanwhile, Tim hopped onto a boat and lived happily ever after with Kit and Elizabeth. So the moral of the story is when life hands you mistaken identities and motorcycle gangs, just remember, a boat can solve all your problems, especially if you have a kid and a love interest in town.